The alarms came 17 minutes too late. Admiral Elena Vasquez watched from the reinforced glass of the Beijing command bunker as the first plasma bolts carved molten trenches across the surface of the Pacific Ocean. The water didn't stop them. Nothing stopped them. Each brilliant lance of superheated energy boiled millions of tons of seawater into steam, and beneath that steam, entire coastal cities simply ceased. Admiral, we're tracking 300-plus objects on orbital approach vectors. They're not slowing for entry protocols. The tactical officer's voice cracked. They're dropping kinetic rods, multiple trajectories, every major population center. Elena had trained for this moment for 37 years. She had run simulations, war games, extinction-level event drills until her joints ached and her mind bled. But no simulation had ever prepared her for the sound of 1 billion people dying in real time. The first rod struck New York at 14:03 Eastern Time. The second hit Lagos at 14:04. London, Mumbai, Shanghai, Sao Paulo. Each impact registered on the seismic sensors like the heartbeat of a dying world. Elena's hands, flat against the cold glass, trembled not from fear but from something far more dangerous. Rage. Pure, crystalline, ice-cold rage that settled into her bones like winter frost. "Why?" she whispered. The word felt stupid even as she said it. There was no why. There was only what came next. The Xylos Syndicate had announced themselves 30 minutes ago with a single transmission broadcast on every frequency. A species of six-limbed, silicate-based predators from a star system humanity had never even catalogued. Their message had been brief, clinical, utterly without malice, which somehow made it worse. "You are inefficient. Your planet's resources will be reallocated. Resistance is meaningless. We fired first because we do not believe in warnings. Goodbye." Then the sky burned. "Admiral, we're detecting energy signatures from the lunar facility." A young lieutenant, barely old enough to shave, pointed at a flickering display. "Someone activated the backup generators. That facility has been dormant for 23 years. Elena's blood went cold for an entirely different reason. The Luna Deep Space Railgun, Project Thor's Vengeance. A weapon so absurd, so monstrously overpowered, that every sane military mind had voted to bury it and forget it existed. A magnetic accelerator cannon nearly 400 kilometers in length, carved into the lunar crust, designed to launch tungsten projectiles at relativistic speeds. The theory was simple. The reality was madness. A 1-kilogram object moving at 0.995 c carries the kinetic energy of a small asteroid. The Luna Railgun was designed to fire projectiles weighing 10,000 kilograms. One shot could crack a planet. "Who activated it?" Elena demanded. The lieutenant's face went pale. "According to the logs, sir, Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, he never left. He's been living in the facility alone for 23 years. Elena remembered Tanaka, brilliant, broken, the man who had designed the railgun's firing mechanism and then begged them not to build it. He had called it an invitation to extinction. Now, with Earth burning and humanity bleeding out in the vacuum of space, the mad scientist had flipped the switch. "Get me a secure line to Luna," Elena said, "and someone calculate the firing solution for every alien ship in orbit." "Sir, if we fire that weapon inside our own gravity well, I know what it will do to Earth." Elena's voice didn't shake. "But they're already killing us. The question is whether we die on our knees or on our feet." The bunker shook. Another impact, closer this time. Dust rained from the ceiling. Somewhere above, the Xylos were turning continents into parking lots. Through the static, a voice crackled from Luna, old, tired, colder than space itself. "Admiral Vasquez, it's been a long time." Dr. Tanaka cleared his throat. "The railgun is operational. I have one projectile loaded. I've been saving it for 23 years. "For what?" Elena asked. "For the day the universe remembered we exist." A pause. The railgun speaks once, Admiral. After that, everyone listens. On the bridge of the Xylos flagship, Commander Vexos watches Earth burn and feels something unexpected. The human transmission that follows is not a plea for mercy. It is a targeting solution. Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka had not spoken to another human being in 11,047 days. He knew the number because he had carved it into the wall of his quarters, one stroke for each sunrise over the lunar horizon. The facility had been designed for 60 personnel. He had watched them leave one by one as funding dried up, as politicians declared the railgun an embarrassment, as the world decided that peace was more profitable than the capacity to crack planets. They were wrong. He had known they were wrong. And now he sat in the command chair of humanity's greatest sin, surrounded by dust and silence, listening to the screams of a dying world through a crackling radio link. The railgun stretched behind him, 400 kilometers of superconducting magnets and reinforced accelerator rings, buried in the lunar crust like a sleeping dragon. The weapon required a crew of 30 to fire safely. Tanaka had spent 23 years automating every single system with salvaged parts and sheer, stubborn genius. He was one man, he was enough. Tanaka, the firing solution is going to take hours to compute. Admiral Vasquez's voice was strained, layered with the sounds of explosions and shouting in the background. We don't have hours. The aliens are beginning atmospheric incursions. They're landing ground forces. Tanaka's fingers danced across a keyboard that had been obsolete when he was young. I don't need a firing solution, Admiral. I need a target. Every ship in orbit is a target. No, Tanaka pulled up the orbital map. 312 Xylos vessels arranged in a perfect geometric grid around Earth. Efficient, clinical, predatory. They're not here to loot. They're here to harvest. Look at the formation. They're using our planet's gravity well to stabilize their fleet positions. That means their command ship is anchored at the Lagrange point. He zoomed in. A vessel twice the size of any other, bristling with weapons and energy signatures so bright they overloaded the sensors. That's your target, Alina said. But hitting something at that distance, with the planet's rotation and gravitational interference. I don't need to hit it, Admiral. Tanaka smiled for the first time in years. It felt like cracking ice. I just need to aim at it. The logic was insane, beautiful, horrifying. The railgun's projectile, moving at 0.995 c, would cross the distance to the Xylos command ship in less than 2 seconds. But at that speed, even the microscopic curvature of spacetime became a targeting factor. A deviation of 0.0001 degrees would send the projectile miss by hundreds of kilometers. But Tanaka had been thinking about this moment for 23 years. He had run the calculations in his head, on paper, in his dreams. He knew every variable, every gravitational distortion, every quantum fluctuation. He knew exactly where to aim. Admiral, I need you to evacuate the hemisphere facing the moon. What? The railgun's firing mechanism creates a secondary energy discharge, not as destructive as the projectile itself, but enough to cause significant atmospheric heating. Anyone looking at the moon when I fire will go blind. Permanently. On Earth, Alina turned to her staff. You heard him. Get everyone underground, now. But the aliens. The aliens are about to learn a very important lesson about human stubbornness. She turned back to the radio. Tanaka, one shot, make it count. On Luna, the old man stood up from his chair. His knees ached, his hands shook, but his eyes were clear. He walked to the firing console and placed his palm on the biometric scanner. The system whirred to life. Green lights cascaded down the length of the railgun as magnets powered up, as capacitors charged, as the massive tungsten projectile began to levitate within the accelerator chamber. Projectile loaded, Tanaka said. Magnetic fields nominal, power at 93% and climbing, firing solution locked. On the bridge of the Xylo's command ship, Commander Vexos watched the primitive world below with detached efficiency. The harvest was proceeding ahead of schedule. The humans had offered no meaningful resistance. Their orbital defenses had crumbled in minutes. Their ground forces were irrelevant. "Their satellites are going dark," a sensor officer reported. "We're detecting a massive energy buildup on their moon." Vexos turned. "Explain." "I can't, Commander. It appears to be." The officer paused, confusion spreading across his silicate features. "It appears to be a magnetic accelerator, extremely primitive, but the scale is impossible." "How impossible?" The officer calculated. "If the readings are accurate, the weapon is larger than any in our fleet, larger than any in the Syndicate's arsenal, larger than—" A light blinked on Vexos's console. It was a transmission from the planet below, audio only. He opened the channel and heard a single word. "Fire." The railgun doesn't shoot at the Xylo's fleet. It shoots through them. And on the other side, something breaks that was never meant to break. The problem with aiming a relativistic weapon is that light lies. Dr. Aris Thorne had known this since she was 12 years old, sitting in her father's observatory, watching distant stars flicker and shift as gravitational lenses bent their light into impossible shapes. Light could be fooled. Light could be delayed. Light could show you where a target had been, not where it was going. And Commander Vexos's command ship was moving. Not much, just a slight orbital correction, a minor adjustment to avoid a piece of debris from a destroyed human satellite. The Xylo's pilot would never know that his casual maneuver had just rendered every firing solution in Tanaka's head obsolete. But Aris knew. She sat in a maintenance closet on the Beijing command bunker's sub-level 4, her legs pulled against her chest, a cracked tablet displaying orbital telemetry in her trembling hands. Around her, the bunker shook as Xylo's ground forces breached the outer perimeter. Gunfire echoed through the corridors, screams, orders, the wet sounds of death. 20 minutes ago, she had been in a prison cell. Her crime, proving that faster-than-light travel was impossible using relativistic mathematics. The Xylos had FTL. Ergo, she was a threat to public order. The military had locked her away for seditious theoretical physics and thrown away the key. Then the aliens came. Then they let her out. Then they handed her a tablet and said, "Calculate." "Dr. Thorne, we need you on the command deck." A soldier grabbed her arm. "The Admiral is asking for you." "I can't." Aris didn't look up from the tablet. "I'm recalculating the firing solution. The command ship adjusted its position 3 minutes ago. If Tanaka fires now, he'll miss by 200 kilometers. The Admiral doesn't care about missing. She just wants the aliens to know we can fight back." "That's stupid." Aris finally looked up. Her eyes were red-rimmed, exhausted but sharp as broken glass. "Symbolic gestures don't win wars. Mass energy equivalency wins wars. Relativistic kill vehicles win wars. And right now, our only chance to win is to hit that ship with precision down to the subarcsecond level." The soldier stared at her. "Can you do it?" Aris looked back at the tablet. The numbers swirled. The command ship's velocity vector, Earth's rotation, the moon's orbital motion, the gravitational influence of Jupiter tugging at the projectile's path, the quantum fluctuations in the vacuum of space that would alter the tungsten rod's trajectory by nanometers over the distance traveled. She could do it, but not on this tablet, not in this closet, not while the building was collapsing around her. "I need to see the stars," she said. "That's insane. The aliens have orbital superiority the moment you go outside." "Then I'll be fast." Aris stood up. Her legs were numb. She didn't care. "Get me to the surface. Get me a clear view of the lunar horizon. And get me a direct line to Dr. Tanaka on the moon." The soldier hesitated, then he nodded. The surface of Beijing was unrecognizable. Eris emerged from a service hatch into a landscape of ash and glass. The sky was the color of a bruise, choked with smoke from 1,000 fires. Above, the Xylo's fleet hung like judgment, their hulls reflecting the orange glow of a burning world. And there, on the horizon, barely visible through the haze, was the moon. "Eris Thorn to Luna Facility," she said into the radio. "Dr. Tanaka, can you hear me?" "Static then. I hear you. I'm reading your biometrics. You're scared." "I'm terrified." Eris pulled out her tablet and aimed its camera at the sky. "But I'm also right. Your firing solution is off by 0.003 degrees. The command ship moved 3 minutes ago. You're aiming at where it was, not where it will be." Silence from Luna, long enough for Eris to wonder if she had made a terrible mistake. "Then how do you know?" "Because I did the math, all of it, in my head." She tapped her temple. "I've been doing it since I was a child. My father called it a curse. The military called it a threat. Right now I'm calling it our only hope." Another pause. When Tanaka spoke again, his voice was different, softer, almost reverent. "I've been here for 23 years, Dr. Thorne. I've run every calculation 1,000,000 times. I've accounted for every variable I could imagine, a breath. But I never accounted for someone like you. Someone like me. Someone who sees the universe differently." The sound of keys clicking. "Give me the correction, word by word. I'll input it manually." Above, a Xylo's dropship screamed past, close enough that Eris felt the heat of its engines on her face. Ground forces were converging on her position. She had maybe 2 minutes before they arrived. "Listen carefully," she said. "The correction has 17 significant digits." 17? That's impossible. Our sensors don't have that kind of precision." "Your sensors don't, I do." Eris closed her eyes and saw the numbers. Beautiful, terrifying, inevitable. "Beginning transmission now." She spoke for 90 seconds. The Xylo's ground forces found her with 30 seconds to spare. The soldier who had brought her to the surface died covering her escape. She kept talking as plasma bolts melted the concrete around her feet. "And the final correction factor is 3.1415926535899793 times 10 to the negative 12 radians." On Luna, Tanaka's hands flew across the keyboard. "Confirmed. Correction locked. Dr. Thorne, you should get inside." "I can't." Eris looked up at the moon one last time. "I need to see this." The Xylo's soldiers were 50 meters away. Their weapons were raised. Their intent was clear. Eris Thorne smiled. "Fire." The projectile leaves the barrel. The universe holds its breath. And on the bridge of the Xylo's command ship, Commander Vexos finally understands what fear feels like. The firing sequence lasted 0.4 seconds. In that time, 3 things happened simultaneously, each more impossible than the last. First, the Luna Railgun discharged its capacitor banks. 400 kilometers of superconducting magnets received a surge of power equivalent to 10% of Earth's global energy consumption. The lunar surface cracked along fault lines that had been dormant for 3 billion years. Dust rose in a curtain that would circle the moon for decades. Second, the tungsten projectile, 10,000 kilograms of forged alloy, shaped like a needle longer than a football field, began to move. From 0 to 299,000 kilometers per second in less than half a second. The acceleration was so violent that the projectile's rear face experienced pressures that briefly mimicked the interior of a neutron star. Atoms compressed. Electrons degenerated. The projectile ceased to be solid matter and became something else entirely. Something terrible. Third, Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, alone in his command chair, whispered a word that no human had spoken aloud in 200 years. An old word, a sacred word, a word that had no place in physics but every place in the human heart. "Begone." Then the projectile left the barrel. On Earth, Eris Thorne saw the flash before she felt it. The lunar surface lit up like a second sun, casting shadows that stretched across the scorched landscape of Beijing. The light was so intense that she threw her arm across her eyes and still saw the bones of her own hand glowing through her flesh. The shockwave came 3 seconds later, not from the projectile, nothing could outrun that, but from the railgun's secondary discharge. A wave of electromagnetic energy swept across the Earth-Moon system, scrambling every electronic device within 1,000,000 kilometers. Xylo's warships flickered and died. Human bunkers went dark. For one terrifying moment, both species were blind. But the projectile had already found its mark. Commander Vexos had exactly 0.02 seconds to register what was happening. His ship's automated collision warning activated, screamed once, and then ceased to exist. The sensors that might have tracked the incoming threat were vaporized before they could transmit. The projectile did not strike the command ship. It passed through it. The physics of relativistic impacts is not intuitive. At 0.995 C, the tungsten projectile did not behave like a bullet. It behaved like a cosmic ray, like a piece of the sun, like the fist of an angry god. Upon entering the command ship's hull, the projectile transferred its kinetic energy to the matter it encountered in a process called relativistic hydrodynamic shock propagation. Every atom in the projectile's path underwent nuclear fusion with every atom of the ship's hull. Temperatures reached millions of degrees. Pressures exceeded those at the center of a star. The command ship did not explode. It became plasma. Vexos had no time to scream, no time to feel pain, no time to regret. One moment he was commanding a fleet. The next moment he was a cloud of ionized gas expanding outward at a significant fraction of the speed of light. But the projectile was not finished. What emerged from the far side of the command ship was no longer a tungsten rod. It was a cone of superheated plasma, still moving at nearly the same velocity, still carrying enough energy to sterilize a continent. It struck the ship behind the command vessel, then the ship behind that, then the ship behind that. In 11 seconds, the lunar railgun's single shot destroyed 47 Xylo's warships. And it kept going. The plasma cone burned through the orbital grid and continued out of the Earth-Moon system. It passed Mars' orbit in 20 minutes. It passed Jupiter in 45. It would leave the solar system in less than 6 hours, carrying with it the message that humanity was not prey. On Earth, silence fell. The Xylo's survivors, 265 ships out of the original 312, stopped firing, stopped moving, stopped everything. Their communications networks buzzed with panic chatter in a language no human could understand. But the meaning was universal. What the hell was that? On Luna, Dr. Tanaka leaned back in his chair. The railgun was dark. The capacitors were drained. The magnets were cooling. He had nothing left. No second shot. No backup plan. No escape. He had done what he came to do. Admiral Vasquez, he said into the radio, status report. On Earth, Elena picked up a handset that was somehow still working. Around her, the bunker was in chaos. No one had expected this. No one had prepared for this. No one knew whether to cheer or weep. Tanaka, she said, you just killed 47 ships. I know. You just killed 47 ships with one shot. I know that too. Elena looked at the tactical display. The remaining Xylo's fleet was retreating, not in formation, not with dignity. They were running, firing their engines at maximum burn, abandoning their ground forces, abandoning their wounded, abandoning everything. They were terrified. Tanaka, she said slowly, did you know it would do that? A long pause. When Tanaka answered, his voice was quieter than she had ever heard it. No, he said, but I hoped. The Xylo's survivors broadcast a warning to their homeworld, but the signal is intercepted. And on the bridges of 1,000 alien ships across the galaxy, Every commander asks the same question: who fires next? The Xylos fleet did not go home. They couldn't. Home was 14 light-years away, and the thing that had just destroyed their command ship was still out there, still moving, still carrying its message of annihilation toward the stars. The plasma cone would pass through their home system in approximately 15 years. They had 15 years to evacuate a planet. Commander Vexos's second-in-command, a battle-hardened warrior named Thraxer, assumed control of the shattered fleet. His first act was to order a full diagnostic of every remaining ship. The results were worse than he had imagined. 47 vessels destroyed. Another 83 damaged by secondary debris or electromagnetic effects. Nearly 30,000 Xylos soldiers dead. And the humans, the primitive, inefficient, inconsequential humans, had suffered exactly 0 casualties from the engagement. They had fired one shot. 1. Thraxer had served in the Syndicate for 200 years. He had participated in the subjugation of 12 starfaring civilizations. He had watched empires crumble and species go extinct. He had never, not once, felt fear. Now his silicate heart was cracking. "Analyze the weapon," he ordered his science officer. "I want to know everything: power source, firing mechanism, operational limits. How many shots can they fire? How fast can they reload? How long until they can aim that thing at our homeworld?" The science officer's reply took 3 hours. When it came, it was not encouraging. "The weapon appears to be a magnetic accelerator of primitive design, but extraordinary scale. Our models suggest it requires approximately 45 minutes to recharge its capacitors between shots." 45 minutes, Thraxer felt a flicker of hope. That's slower than our own weapons. We could overwhelm them with a coordinated assault during the recharge window. "There's more." The science officer hesitated. "Commander, the weapon's first shot was not aimed at our fleet. It was aimed at a point in empty space approximately 2,000 kilometers behind our formation." Thraxer went very still. "Explain." The humans did not anticipate the plasma cone effect. They did not know that a relativistic impact would produce secondary damage along the projectile's path. They fired one shot hoping to hit one ship. They destroyed 47 by accident. "Silence." "They don't know what they've built," Thraxer whispered. "They don't understand their own weapon." "Correct, Commander, which means they cannot control it. The next shot might miss entirely, or it might destroy their own planet, or it might hit something no one intended." Thraxer turned to the main view screen. Earth hung in the distance, blue and green and white and beautiful, burning in places, scarred, but alive. And beneath the surface of that wounded world, a species had just discovered that they could reach out and touch the stars. Not gently, not peacefully, not with curiosity or wonder. With violence. "We need to warn the Syndicate," Thraxer said. "Send a priority transmission. Tell them everything. Tell them to prepare the defense grid. Tell them to expect." He stopped. On the view screen, a new signal was emerging from Earth. Not weapons fire, not a transmission, something else. A single point of light, moving away from the planet at incredible speed. Smaller than the first projectile. Faster. And aimed directly at the heart of Xylo's space. "They fired again," the science officer breathed. "Impossible, the capacitors weren't ready. The math doesn't." "It's not another projectile," Thraxer said. His voice was hollow. "It's a probe. They're sending a probe." "Why?" The answer came 3 seconds later when the probe's transmission washed over the Xylos fleet. It was not a threat, not a plea, not a negotiation. It was a targeting solution for every Xylos world within 50 light-years. And at the end of the transmission, a human voice spoke 7 words that would echo through the galaxy for 1,000 years. "We gave you the first shot, never again." The probe reaches the Xylos homeworld. The syndicate's leaders finally understand what they awakened, and in the halls of alien power across the galaxy, a new question emerges. If humanity built one railgun, what else did they build? The Grand Council of the Galactic Syndicate convened in emergency session 17 hours after the probe's transmission arrived. 17 hours. For a civilization that had spent millennia deliberating every major decision, 17 hours was not a response. It was a panic attack. Representatives from 47 species filled the council chambers, their bodies adapted to environments ranging from high-pressure ammonia oceans to low-gravity methane clouds. They did not agree on anything. They did not like each other. They did not trust each other. But they all feared the same thing now. The humans call it a railgun. The Xylo's ambassador, an ancient creature named Vexos Prime, no relation to the late commander, projected holographic schematics into the center of the chamber. Primitive, crude, inefficient by every metric of advanced warfare. And yet, the schematics rotated slowly. The railgun scale became apparent. 400 kilometers, buried in a moon, powered by technology that predated most of the Council's member species. We have confirmed that the weapon can fire projectiles at 0.995 C, Vexos Prime continued. We have confirmed that a single shot can destroy multiple vessels through relativistic plasma cone effects. We have confirmed that the humans have at least one operational unit. A representative from the Krith hegemony, a species of arthropod-like beings who communicated through scent, raised a trembling antenna. At least one. You mean there could be more? The Xylo's ambassador hesitated. This was the part he had been dreading. The probe's transmission included detailed schematics for a second facility, larger than the first, located not on the moon but on the Earth's surface. On the surface, how is that possible? The atmospheric interference alone would. The second railgun is not designed to fire through atmosphere. Vexos Prime pulled up the new schematics. The council chamber fell silent. It is designed to fire from the Earth's surface through a network of orbital mirrors that redirect the projectile's trajectory. The mirrors can be positioned anywhere within the solar system, which means they can aim at anything, the Krith representative finished. Anywhere, at any time. The silence in the chamber was absolute. For 10,000 years, the Galactic Syndicate had operated on a simple principle. Prey species were weak. Prey species were stupid. Prey species existed to be consumed by predators. The Xylos had attacked Earth because they had classified humanity as prey. They had been wrong. The humans are not prey, Vexos Prime said, voicing the thought that every representative was thinking. They are not predators either. Predators hunt for survival. Predators understand the balance of nature. He paused. The humans built a weapon that could destroy a planet. Then they built a second one because one wasn't enough. Then they aimed both of them at the stars because the stars weren't enough. What are they then? Vexos Prime looked at the holographic Earth, still burning in places, still scarred, still bleeding. There's something new, he said. Something we've never seen before. Something that doesn't care about our rules, our hierarchies, our assumptions. They didn't build the railgun to conquer. They built it to survive. And a species that survives at any cost. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. The council voted unanimously. The Xylos Syndicate would withdraw from Earth immediately. All claims to the planet and its resources were forfeit. Reparations would be paid in technology, in territory, in anything the humans demanded. But the vote was not unanimous because the council feared the railgun. It was unanimous because the council feared what the railgun had awakened. Back on Earth, Admiral Elena Vasquez stood on the surface for the first time in 3 weeks. The sky was clearing. The fires were dying. The survivors were emerging from their bunkers and their caves and their hiding places. Above, the Xylos fleet was gone. not retreating, fleeing. Their engines left trails of light across the dawn sky like shooting stars in reverse. "Admiral," a lieutenant approached, holding a data slate. "We've decoded the Council's transmission. They're offering unconditional surrender, full reparations, anything we want." Alina took the slate, read it, handed it back. "Tell them we accept," she said. "Then tell them we're keeping the railguns. The second one isn't even operational yet. We don't have the mirror network. We don't have the targeting." "Doesn't matter." Alina looked up at the stars. "They don't know that." She turned to walk back to the bunker, then stopped. "Oh, and Lieutenant, transmit this to every species in the Council, word for word." She spoke for 12 seconds. The lieutenant recorded. The message went out. And across the galaxy, 47 civilizations heard a human say, "We don't want your surrender. We want you to remember. Remember what happened to the species that fired first. Remember that you still exist because we allowed it. Remember that the railgun is silent now, but it can always speak again." In the darkness between galaxies, something hears the railgun's thunder. Something ancient, something hungry, something that has been waiting for a species foolish enough to announce its presence to the universe. Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka died 3 months after the battle. He did not die heroically. He did not die in a blaze of glory. He died the way most old men die, quietly, in his sleep, alone on the moon, with the railgun humming softly beneath his feet. By the time anyone found him, he had been dead for 6 days. The funeral was broadcast across Earth. Every surviving human watched as Admiral Vasquez placed a simple tungsten rod on his casket, a replica of the projectile that had saved their species. The speech she gave was short, brutal, honest. "He was not a hero," she said. "He was an engineer. He saw a problem and he solved it. The problem was extinction. The solution was violence. He did not enjoy the solution. He simply understood that some problems have no peaceful answers." She stepped back from the casket. "The galaxy now knows our name. They know what we built. They know what we're capable of, but they don't know us, not yet." She looked at the camera. "Let's introduce ourselves." The second railgun activated 18 months later. Unlike its lunar predecessor, the planetary defense accelerator was not hidden. It was not buried. It was built in the middle of the Sahara Desert, visible from orbit, visible from the moon, visible from anywhere with a half-decent telescope. A structure 600 kilometers long, stretching across the sand like a scar on the face of the world. The orbital mirror network took 2 years to complete. 23 mirrors, each larger than a city, positioned at Lagrange points throughout the solar system. Together, they could redirect the accelerator's projectile anywhere within 100 light-years. The day the system went operational, Admiral Vasquez, now President Vasquez, stood in the control center and watched the final mirror lock into position. "Targeting solutions?" she asked. A young officer, Aris Thorne's protege, a mathematician almost as brilliant as her mentor, tapped her console. "We have solutions for every Xylo's world within 50 light-years, every syndicate fleet position, every allied species homeworld. We can hit anything." "Anything. Anything." President Vasquez nodded. Then she did something no one expected. She opened a channel to every species in the galaxy. Not a threat, not a warning, an invitation. "This is humanity. We have spent our entire existence looking at the stars and wondering if anyone was looking back. Now we know you found us, you judged us, you tried to kill us, and we survived. We built this weapon because we had to, but we do not want to use it. We want to talk, we want to trade, we want to learn. We want to be your neighbors, not your executioners. The railgun is not a promise of violence. It is a promise of peace. Because anyone who attacks us now knows exactly what will happen. No one will attack us. And that means no one will die, not us, not you, not anyone. So here is our offer: come in peace, or don't come at all. The choice is yours. The railgun is silent, but it is always listening. In the control center, silence fell. Then Eris Thorne, older now, scarred now, but still sharp as broken glass, started laughing. "You just invited the entire galaxy to a party," she said, "and told them we have a gun under the table." President Vasquez smiled. "That's not a gun under the table." She pointed at the schematics on the main view screen. "That's the gun on the table, the one everyone can see, the one everyone is afraid of." She pulled up a second set of schematics, classified, eyes only, so secret that only 4 people in the solar system knew they existed. "The real gun," she said, "is the one they don't see." Eris stared at the schematics. Her smile faded. "3 railguns," she whispered. "You built 3. We built 12. Eris's hand went to her mouth. 12 railguns hidden throughout the solar system, on asteroids, on moons, on the dark side of planets, 12. And every single one is aimed at a different target, not Xylo's worlds, not syndicate fleets. She zoomed out the schematics, beyond the galaxy, beyond the local cluster, into the darkness between. "Something heard the first shot," President Vasquez said quietly. "Something old, something big, something that's been sleeping for a very long time. We don't know what it is, but we know it's coming." She turned to face the control center. "So we built 12 railguns, and when that thing gets here, we're going to fire every single one. Not to survive, to send a message to every predator, to every monster, to everything that looks at humanity and sees prey." She picked up a tungsten rod, identical to the one on Tanaka's casket, and held it to the light. "The message is simple. You are not the apex predators of this universe. We are. We were always meant to be. It just took us a while to figure it out." Outside, in the darkness between galaxies, something stirred. It had heard the thunder. It was hungry. It had no idea what was waiting for it.